the key message I was trying to bring across is it's not anymore the question of what is the value and importance of creativity, culture, design and all of that, but what is the cost of not thinking these things through in terms of becoming more resilient, and perhaps also the shift in emphasis of where creativity might be. Historically, we were thinking always of the center of big global cities and big secondary cities. But I mean, in fact, as your experience shows, in a sense, we need imagination to think about cities that are not doing well, areas that are not doing well. So really, I was saying that creativity is an all-purpose quality and characteristic that needs to be embedded in the way cities think about themselves and the way they are run.
Jean Frost of Arup, you told me you worked before for the Olympics. Of course, this is a different challenge as you have in Arup now. What is Arup doing, and how can this concept of creative city making be integrated in your business?
Well, it's interesting. Arup are doing quite an amount of work now in urban regeneration globally. We're working, for example, in 3 different places at the moment. North London, after the riots occurred a couple of years ago in North London, to look at how we might address some of the social and economic issues there. We're also then, in parallel with that, working in Tshwane, which is the capital of South Africa, where the inner city really, the heart dropped out of it, the economy dropped, and we're looking to revitalize it, recreate some activity and life, if you like, as well as recreate it as a place that people want to be and want to live in. And in parallel with that, we're also working in Bethlehem, where we're working to combine really the 2 communities and look at ways in which Bethlehem itself can serve as the center point. So the challenges, I think, are quite different from the Olympics, but nonetheless there's some real interesting lessons, I think, that I've taken and learned from the Olympic experience and brought into that work.
We're living in the northeast of Holland. You know, perhaps you know Groningen. It's a northern place, and we are living to the German edge. So it was easier for me to speak German with you to show our international character. We are seen an international community, small. There are living 40,000 inhabitants, but in a region with 80,000 people. It's agriculture at the most, but we have also a very old city. Not as beautiful as Bath or other places as I love in England, but it's a real old city. It's a history of Holland, and we have some talk about that because that's one of our creative moments. We can make that again, to make it an history city, to make it more quality than it is now, because now we have a lot of unemployment, 14%. We have a lot of people who need some help to find work or to get work or to remain on their spot. So we have got also a lot of social problems to deal with.
Is your theory applicable also to those small, more rural areas and small municipalities? And how do these municipalities can implement your theory?
Well, I mean, if you put it in one sentence, you could say the creative city is about creating the conditions where people can think, plan and act with imagination, and that they should use their imagination to solve problems or create opportunities inventively. Now, that quality of inventiveness applies to any situation, and any city can be, let's say, more imaginative or more creative than it already is. So really all it's saying is, we've got problems in this case, how can we deal with them in an interesting way? Now, if you take a helicopter view of the situation, you think of any problem, the one that Jerome mentioned about London's problems, somewhere someone has done that in a good, interesting way. And so really all I'm trying to do is say, look, there are ways of getting through these problems.
When you want to change, you first have to make the possibility in a man's mind that the change is necessary and that they don't have to be adept on the situation they're living in now.
Isn't it interesting how many parallels there are with all of our experience? I mean, I find that in all 3 of the examples that I gave you where we're working, one of the biggest obstacles actually to creating that creative future, if you like, is this culture of dependence, a historical culture of dependence, whether it be historically dependent on a major employer, which is maybe the reason why they're there, but that employer has gone now, or now a dependence on benefits, welfare benefit, or even in the case of South Africa, a dependence on a different economy, which has vanished now, in some respects, and changed radically. And breaking out of that dependence culture into a more entrepreneurial or an enterprise culture where creativity is allowed to exist actually requires that leap of providing the opportunity and pointing the direction for opportunity to exist.
You talked about Winschoten, and you said that Winschoten has very beautiful houses, so it has the right circumstances to put back Winschoten on the map. How are you proceeding at the coming 5 to 10 years to make this happen?
Well, first, we don't do it in 10 years. We have to do it in 2 to 5 years. 2 years, it's our goal. 5 years, perhaps, but we have to do it quick because the mindsetting of people in which we are working now have to followed by moving, by action, because the step back in their old belief is faster than the step forward.
Charles, Winschoten is talking about 2 to 5 years. Are you surprised by this short term? Is it possible?
Well, I am a bit surprised because I think things do take longer, and that's why one has to find ways of orchestrating things. I mean, that, let's say, is hardware. A lot is hardware, and often you use software, another way of saying activities and other things, to prefigure the future, which is partly also trying to generate aspiration and confidence and motivation within the population to help co-create these processes. Because you as a city yourself can't really do everything. Developing a city are the acts of many people doing things in, I'm saying orchestrated, but you know what I mean, in a way that somehow fits together. So my own view, it all depends, but that sounded quite short.
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's a huge difference between scale of city. I think the challenges of major projects or major physical change programs are very, very similar wherever you are. And I think particularly in Europe, we've experienced it in the UK quite a lot recently, that people are more motivated now to engage in some of these projects, and if they don't like what they see or they feel excluded, actually there's far greater means for them to respond through the social media available to them. And we're seeing that perhaps in Turkey at the moment. So
Exactly.
I think the real challenge for these big change programs, which I agree with. I mean, of course, the Olympics was a 7-year program. It's probably the fastest thing we've ever done in the UK in terms of that kind of level of change. Still, the biggest challenge to us was repeatedly and continuously ensuring that communities that we wanted to benefit from this were engaged in the process. And they were engaged not just physically, but that was important, but they were also engaged through the media, through the understanding of what the project was about, through some of the events, through a lot of the creative activity. We had a big arts program, for example, and we created a number of buildings around the site which the community ran, which local people ran, and they ran for their own purposes, for schools, for etc. And those kinds of things actually brought the community into the site and understood that, and helped them understand that these things do take time, but they're worth engaging in, and that at the same time as they're going on, life continues, and these things can also offer part of that life.